Elves are the best race when it comes to fantasy, and no cave mining, mud brew drinking dwarf can tell me otherwise. And so too are elves the best when it comes to the wonderful game we call Blood Bowl. If you like elves in all their Warhammer fantasy forms, you will not be disappointed because there's a team for every type of elf, and another more interesting one. Let's go through them, shall we? Since I'm off my rockers and I just arranged my 20 kilos collection of rice by size and color, we will start in alphabetical order with my favorites, the Dark Elves. Like in Warhammer Fantasies, the Dark Elves are a group of elves who decide they don't agree with the social contract they signed at birth and left to create their own elven society, with arrogance and pride. But this new society found itself in a civil war with the other elves, and they lost. Because of that, their hearts grew colder as they were banished from their own lands and forced into exile. While all elf teams share a love for the running game and are exceptionally nimble, the Dark Elves added another trait to their playstyle: ruthless aggression. From all elven teams, they have the most aggressive playstyle, a wonderful thing for the action-craving fans of Blood Bowl. When a Dark Elf team takes the pitch, it's a clear sign that the match will be entertaining. Next on our list are the High Elves. What the elves want you to not remember is that in the beginning, when orcs and dwarves played each other, the elves hated the game. They saw it as two uncivilized teams beating each other senseless in a display of mindless violence for a ball. And how did they come to, like it now? How did they come around? The same way most other races did. They found a great pleasure in seeing their team beat the opposing team to a pulp and win a long and hard-fought match of Blood Bowl. The glory of Nuffle reaches us all, at one point or another. While the Dark Elves added aggression to their playstyle, what the High Elf teams bought or found to work best for them, incredibly so I would say, is the passing game. With a good formation, they can pass the ball from one elf to another until they score a touchdown. As you can imagine, this passing prowess also comes with an ability to intercept the ball surprisingly well, even before the opposing teammate sees it coming. Unfortunately, there are two downsides with being a High Elf fan, as well a non-High Elf race. First, even the fall of the NAF, there are only a handful of teams with only two of them that are worth a halfling pie. The other problem is, well, they are picky when it comes to who they play, when they play, and where they play. Here's the best example for that. Once, the Gladiators refused to play against the Bright Crusaders for the following reasons. It was raining, the pitch was muddy, and the Bright Crusaders wore tasteless uniforms. With those flaws into consideration, you might not get to enjoy a High Elf team match, but if you are lucky, you will see a splendid display of acrobatics and athleticism, provided you don't get stomped by the other team. Next, we have a kind of elves, that, like the Dark Elves, have decided to make their own society. But rather than recreate Rapture like their Dark Brethren, they decided to create a hippie commune, Wood Elves. Morphologically, there's no difference between High Elves and Wood Elves. Wood Elves just prefer to wear less armor, and in what they prefer to wear to share the colors with the woods they live in, which is predominantly green and brown. The kingdom they've managed to make for themselves is older than those of the humans that live near them. In time, humans have learned to avoid their forests because many have ventured into them and have never been heard of again. They are definitely elusive, so much so that you'll only see their kind when their team and their fans come for matches. But don't hold your hopes high for any autographs or mingling with your fellow fans, because as they come, so they go, without a trace left behind. By their very nature, Wood Elves make for good Blood Bowl players. But remember how they don't like armor? Well, that's their biggest flaw, since they can get trampled by both the opposing team and the fans alike. But don't forget a thing, like all elves, they are naturally athletic, more so seeing how they jump from tree to tree. This makes them hard targets to catch. Remember the High Elves liked passing? Well, their tree-loving brethren are good at that too, but they prefer The long pass. That is their bread and butter. And quite frankly, they might be better than their stuck-up cousins. In a team, every member strives to become a master of throwing and receiving, all with the exception of the War Dancers, who focus more on the hand-to-hand combat aspect of the Blood Bowl game. Don't be fooled though, just because they don't wear any armor, it doesn't mean you have to consider the War Dancers pushovers. Because like the Witch Elves, they're as deadly as any foe. And now, for the last elves, which kind of breaks my alphabetical ordering, but that's what you get for trusting a compulsive liar. Elf teams were no stranger to controversy back in the day. But with the fall of Naf, many teams found themselves indebted to noble backers of the Elven kingdoms. And because of that, many players found themselves sidelined in favor of nepotism. Of course, this was outrageous to both the fans that hoped to see their favorite players and the players that found themselves sidelined. Something needed to be done about this, and at some point it was. Nobody was surprised when the Elven Union was formed from the disgruntled High Elves. But High Elves were not the only ones to form the Union. They were joined by the odd Wood Elf and even Dark Elf. Their overall goal is to save the reputation of the Elven teams and show that they can take Blood Bowl seriously, without refusing to play because of the rain, some little mud, or the tasteless decisions that the other team makes when it comes to their garments. Their biggest flaw is that they lack the funding of the other elves. As you can expect, they don't always have their Sunday best with them. But what they lack in the monetary aspect, they make up for it tenfold with experience and stubborn determination that will make even the biggest dwarf look at them with a little bit of respect. Now that we look at the 4 types of elven teams out there, let's look at some of the most notable teams that come from each subrace of elves. And why not start with the Dark Elf team that won the Blood Bowl Cup 3 times, and whose cheerleading squad abandoned them the first chance they got. The Darkside Cowboys. Nobody knows exactly when the team first formed. As all Dark Elves, they are secretive with much of their personal lives. What we do know is that the team came to the surface world in 2422 for a match against the halfling team of the Pinkfoot Panthers. To this day, no one knows what has become of the Panthers, and it still remains a mystery. When the Cowboys first applied for the NFC, many teams threatened to boycott the division. But the fans, on the other hand, they enjoy seeing the Dark Elves playing. As you can expect, nothing came out of those threats. In 2461, the Darkside Cowboys would win their first Blood Bowl championship against the Chaos All-Stars. Of course, this didn't come without its share of controversy, because the Dark Elves used magic to turn all of the Chaos players on the skirmish line into slugs. And almost no one noticed it. After that, the Cowboys would get some wins and some losses here and there, even one draw that came after the longest match in recorded Blood Bowl history. It was the Darkside Cowboys against the Kishargo Werebears, and the match lasted for 19 days, ending in a 2-2 draw. This match saw both teams slaughtered and depleted of members. This match is also responsible for a time limit of matches that the NAF would create. The Cowboys needed to rebuild their team, and so they did it with the help of Jeremiah Koo, their new captain. With his prowess, they would reach the Blood Bowl Cup of 2473 and help them win by making a passing record that is still unbeaten to this very day. Jeremiah Koo would retire in 2487 after bringing 2 more NFC championships to the Cowboys. During that time, the wheel of progress turned, and so the Dark Elves kept going on and adapting to this change, using portable spells developed in the Under-Earth University. This would allow each player to carry a spell with them on the pitch. Spells were used before, but they would be more of the subtle variety, like putting a blocker to sleep, giving the runner a very bad itch, or bringing a plague of rats to the opposing bench. But this new magic would allow the players to strike down their foes with lightning and disintegrate them with the first chance. Of course, the NAF almost immediately banned the use of such spells, but the Cowboys and other teams have continued to utilize the spells to give themselves an advantage. When Jeremiah Cool retired, he left the captaincy to Hubris Rakard, who managed to bring the Darkside Cowboys to the finals of the last Blood Bowl championship against the Reikland Reavers. Unfortunately, the sudden departure of Commissioner Nick Treehorn and their cheerleaders has left that match a no contest of sorts. Of their owner, Darren Alolovia, we know only that he read the full rulebook of Blood Bowl, and not only the gory bits, though this claim is made by himself and it is almost impossible to investigate. The next team is, well, the Nagroth Nightwings / Nightmares. Yes, the name is a little bit strange, but there's a history there that we will go to soon enough. The team was formed around the 2380s, and they played exclusively in the closed Elven League Kingdoms tournament. During that time, they have distinguished themselves by being able to recruit players from the Cult of Cain who are renowned for their lust of violence and blood. In 2391, the Nightwings won their first Elven Kingdoms League trophy. Some historians are of the opinion that the staff of the Nightwings made sure to play in such a dim light that it was hard for the opposing team to differentiate between its members and the members of the Nightwings. In 2420, the Nightwings signed Asperon Torn, which aided them in becoming one of the best teams in the Elven Kingdoms League. 1 year later, they won their third Elven Kingdoms Cup. In 2432, the Nightwings won the Chaos Cup when, after they went on a sea voyage, they got teleported on the coast of Norska. So when in Aldorf, you do like the Aldorfians, and they won the cup. That victory brought them recognition from the NAF, and they were included in the AFC within that year. Some think that they were brought in to be jobbers, seeing how they found themselves in a division with the Reikland Reavers, the Gouged Eyes, the Champions of Death, and the Elfheim Eagles. They had a hard time making a true name for themselves, but the silver lining was that this division forged the Nightwings into a formidable team that won their fourth Elven Kingdoms Cup with ease. And one does not reach this position without making a few enemies. And one of those enemies came from their very own city. A new team would be formed in Nagroth, the Nagrond Nightmares, that many saw as a new upstart team trying to steal the thunder of the much more experienced one. The Nightmares went on a full media campaign to all outlets to spread rumors that the Nightwings players, some of them, were not in fact Dark Elves but from Ulthuan. A great and terrible insult to any Dark Elf. These rumors created a blood feud between the two teams for years, and some speculate that only the worst would have happened if it wasn't for Nick Treehorn leaving with the treasury of the NAF, whatever. The Nightwings didn't fare that well with the change in Blood Bowl that came. But in an act that surprised everyone, the Nightmares opened themselves to receive the Nightwing players, even going as far as making a huge media spectacle to reveal that they would wear the colors of the Nightmares with the symbols of the Nightwings. Touching. Following the Dark Elves, we will be looking at the High Elf teams. Well, in this case, just one. The Galadriel Gladiators. After the union of the Dar Elat Beech Trees and the Asheville Valar to make the Elfheim Eagles, what remained from the team's union got bought out by the Galadriel Gladiators to bolster their team with veteran players. The Gladiators are credited with developing an effective running game led by their top blitzer and star player, Lucian Swift. The Gladiators would win their first and only Blood Bowl Cup in 2470, after a match with the gouged eyes. The after party was the best party ever recorded in history, and nothing has come close to reaching it, trust me. You had to be there to enjoy it, all the luxuries, all the extravagance at display. The gladiators did not join the party. They were either too busy with the apothecaries or with their hairstylist after a very hard-fought match against the orcs. The collapse of the NAF saw the gladiators in a very bad shape and position. Overnight, they found themselves in financial difficulties. Cuts had to be made to their programs, and sponsorship deals had to be made. They even accepted a one-match sponsorship that saw their name changed to McMurtry's Big Mert Gladiators. A very unfortunate name. The troubles continued as their star player, Lucian Swift, left the team to join his brother Valen Swift as a free agent. Things were not looking that great for the former Blood Bowl winners. But that too would change once the gladiators got bought by a collective of nobles known as the Court of the Eagles. No, the Court of the Eagle, excuse me. We can only hope that good things are to come for them. Dark Elves and High Elves, and oh my. But let's not forget the Wood Elves. And we will start with the team that won Soki Magazine's Most Punctured Player Award in 2465, the Alteron Avengers. They made their debut in 2429 in the Elven Kingdom League, where they did decently enough, but after a few shady games against the Darkside Cowboys, the Avengers swore an oath of vengeance against their Dark Elf kin. This rivalry is still ongoing now after the fall of the NAF. About that, the fall of the NAF proved to be of no consequences for the Avengers that enjoyed traveling around the open world and playing Blood Bowl. It's clear that the open play format is better suited for them than the more strict one during the NAF. Through constant traveling, training, and counseling, the Avengers won their first Blood Bowl Cup and Bowl Championship in 2496. One Wood Elf team that didn't see such success is the Loron Paladins, who are a relatively new Wood Elf team, but any good Blood Bowl fan and analyst will tell you that this is the Wood Elf team you should look out for. That all comes thanks to the formation that they have that includes 2 3-men, the Longbark brothers, who are from the same cutting as the most famous 3-man player out there, Longbark Earthroot of the Galadriel Gladiators. And these brothers have proven to be worthy successors of the Longbark name. Despite everybody being on their side, and the 2 3-men being very valuable members of the team, the Paladins haven't seen any success as of yet. Because, they always find themselves on the wrong end of inquiries thanks to their unusual formation. We wish the Lorlon Paladins all the best in the future, and that we may see them win at least one Blood Bowl championship. Moving to the Elven Union, let's look at a very new team in the world of Blood Bowl. Of course, from the Elven Union, as I said earlier, we have the Celestial Comets. They were formed in 2472 as a Dungeon Bowl team, and they participate in the Colleges of Magic tournaments for over a decade. When they got lucky and they finally grabbed the Dungeon Bowl Cup in 2488, the NAF collapsed and brought into question what will happen to the Dungeon Bowl Cup. The tournament will survive, but many of its well-known teams would go to the surface and join the Blood Bowl above. One of those being the Celestial Comets. Surprisingly, the Comets transitioned well from Dungeon Bowl to Blood Bowl. But old habits die hard, and it is rumored, and sometimes seen, that they use the same tricks they used to in the Colleges of Magic tournaments to outmaneuver their enemies. Since we're here, let's also look at the most prestigious Elven Union team out there, the Elfheim Eagles, a team formed from the merging of the Asheville Valar and the Dar Elrath Beach Trees. Both of these teams struggled, both on the pitch and off it, but the Valar Galante managed to purchase the teams and combine them into the Elfheim Eagles. In 2471, the Eagles would be banned from participating in the Chaos Cup after Orchidas took over as sponsor. Orchidas claimed that every team needed to have at least one player tainted by chaos. But many, including the Eagles, saw this as discrimination against them for being elves. In the court ruling, Orchidas was found at fault, and they didn't renew their sponsorship the following year. The Eagles did not take this lightly. They, and their city, refused to ever participate in the Chaos Cup thanks to the insult that was brought upon them. In 2480, the Eagles would win the Blood Bowl Cup, having defeated the Nurgle's Rotters team in the final. Yet questions started to arise when no Eagle player received any injury during the whole match. Theories started to spread about why this happened. They ranged from high elven magic, to animated grass, to huge vats of antiseptic, and even a team hired by Acne Cleanse Corporation. An investigation was started regarding this incident, but it came back inconclusive. Mostly because the detectives sent to talk with the Nurgle's Rotters team all ended up dead. Seeing how there was no evidence of guilt, the Eagles had been declared not guilty of any kind of cheating, and validated their Blood Bowl win. Downside is, this Blood Bowl win would be the last accolade that the Eagles would win for 6 years until they won the Spike Open in 2486. From 2484, the team was captained by Valen Swift, the brother of Lucian Swift. But both players will leave their teams in 91 to become free agents. Isn't it strange that Elven teams either win just one Blood Bowl Cup or nothing at all? Of course, with the exception of the Darkside Cowboys. That aside, let's look at some star players for all Elven races. Firstly, we will talk about the star blitzer and team captain of the Darkside Cowboys, Hubris Rakart. He made his name in playing in the Elf under 100s and under 160 leagues, establishing a reputation for both violence and tactics. He would leave the under 160s team because of mutual disagreements. After that, he debuted professionally for the Cowboys in 2481. The then captain, Jeremiah Cool, took an interest in the rookie and made sure to train him. In no time, Hubris became a well-rounded player, capable of committing atrocities and fatalities. He would help the Cowboys win the Blood Bowl Cup in 2481 when he debuted, and in 2488. Soon after came the collapse of the NAF, and Jeremiah retired, giving the position of captain to Hubris. And he has kept it until this day. In his youth, Hubris studied magic at a Darkside Academy in Western Underearth, and he has kept using the magic he learned there on multiple occasions. Illegally, of course. Fun fact, while he is part of the Darkside Cowboys roster, he also lends his services to other Dark Elf teams and sometimes to Elven Union teams. Next, we have Asperon Thorn, who is a runner that played for the Darkside Cowboys and became the first thrower of the Nagroth Nightwings. Under his guidance, the Nightwings won 5 Elven Kingdoms League finals and 2 Chaos Cups. Currently, he is a free agent that works for Dark Elf, High Elf, and Elven Union teams. In his first season with the Nightwings, the team ended it with a score of 24-1-2. Impressive, I know. But I find the fact that he played for the Nightwings for 6 decades to be even more impressive. Thorn is considered one of the oldest players on the pitch, and rumor has it that he signed up for a boot camp held by the second commissioner of the NAF in 2368. On our list of star players, we can't exclude Prince Morarion. who started his career for the Dragon Princes, and now plays for the Caldor Dragons. Though he lends his services to other elf teams, and, in case I forgot to mention, he is the blitzer of his team. His tenure in the Dragon Princes was short-lived because the team was short-lived itself. The Princes was formed out of noble elves that wanted to play Blood Bowl only against teams of equal social ranking. It is unclear if the team survived for at least 1 year. Because of that, Morarion bought the Caldor Dragons to play as much and as freely as he wished. Yes, I said bought, because if Bugman can be both coach, owner, and player, so can Prince Morarion. The Prince's early life saw him in a pretty high position. He did come from a high noble heritage after all, but once he turned 500 years old, he saw Blood Bowl in his future. Remember how I said High Elves didn't like the game in the beginning? Well, nobles liked it even less so. But Morarion was a pioneer for his kind, and for other nobles that further on went on to join him to form the Dragon Princes, which failed. But the prince wasn't willing to go back to being just a noble. He was determined to spite fate, and so he bought the Caldor Dragons. You know, I saw people spend their midlife crisis in worse ways. Or is it a quarter-life crisis in this case? Who cares? Let's move to the Wood Elves now with Kurnoth Darkwold, who is a Wood Elf war dancer who started his career for the Bilbali Archers and is now currently a free agent for any team that can afford him. When on the field, you might wonder if this is a Wood Elf or a Witch Elf, thanks to his style of play being almost exactly the same. The way he started his Blood Bowl career is definitely an interesting one. He smelled the blood coming from a Blood Bowl pitch and went into that direction. He's quite a fan favorite thanks to the violence he displays on the field. But his aggressiveness isn't the only thing that makes him stand out. He also stands out thanks to his lack of hygiene, which made him the winner of the Filthiest Player Award in 2487. Our following star player is Gloriel Summerbloom, who started her career for the Lauren Paladins and is now a free agent that plays for any Wood Elf team. She is a prolific thrower, one of the best in the game, some fans might even say. But there's a catch to her. She despises the violence in Blood Bowl, but still continues to play to bring serenity and harmony to the field to curb the cruder aspects of the sport. So far, we think she has been unsuccessful at her goals, but she did win the Spike Magazine's Strong Arm Award in 2489, so certainly she is doing something right. Like Shampoo and Conditioner, 2 and 1, we will be looking at 2-star players that are inseparable now, but once they were like water and oil. The Swift brothers, Valen and Lucian. Valen played for the Elfenheim Eagles and Lucian for the Galadriel Gladiators. Both brothers won the Blood Bowl championship with their respective teams. In different years, of course. And, seeing how they play for different teams, they did face each other on the pitch, but it was a friendly competition for them. That all would change once Valen became captain of the Eagles. A heated rivalry was ignited between the two brothers, one that became very bitter. So much so that at some point during a grudge match between the two teams, Lucian seriously injured Valen. This affected Lucian, and later on, during Valen's recovery, the two brothers made amends and fixed their relationship, promising to never play against one another ever again. The same way the Klitschko brothers promised their mother to never fight each other. After Valen's recovery, they both quit their teams and became free agents. You can't have one without the other. The two even created the Swift Foundation to help young people start a career in Blood Bowl. Good guys. We have only one more star player remaining, and this one was carefully chosen. Or recklessly, if you decide that. Eldir Sidewinder. Eldir is a Sea Elf war dancer. Once upon a time, he played for the Galadriel Gladiators, but now he plays for any type of elven team. For most of his life, Eldir was a normal elf that played Blood Bowl. Nothing that surprising or different to him. Until one day, he, with the Gladiators, won the Chaos Cup. After that, he became a free agent. Of course, what helped him make that decision was not the success at the Chaos Cup, but a gift granted to him by Tzeentch, the Changer of Ways. Amnesia of everything that happened in his life before he won the Chaos Cup. But it wasn't only with gifts that Tzeentch came, no, he also came with a curse. Eldir is cursed to wake up every morning and think he's part of the elven race, or of the elf race, that is playing closest to him. Yes, be this either High Elf, Wood Elf, Dark Elf, or Elven Union. But it's not all that bad, because there are two gifts that Tzeentch bestowed upon him. And the other one is, well, his gaze has now become hypnotic. So if any player looks into his eyes, they'll get temporary amnesia, making them forget what they were doing. A good skill to have in a match of Blood Bowl. And these have been the elven teams of Blood Bowl. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.